time to stretch and skim and scan. Oh, we got some printed out stuff. Yeah, you have a teacher that I don't know how to do it. All right, we can come back together in 3, 2, 1. Thank you. So I'm just gonna keep us on track because I know you'll be mad at me if I don't let you go for your hour lunch, and I know I do not want to have anyone upset with me. Hopefully you had some time to stretch, talk. I was able to talk through some literacy blocks, so if you have any questions throughout this time about how that might work in your different situations with writing and special ed and departmentalized and non-departmentalized, we could definitely talk through those pieces, so I'd love to be your thinking partner. As we talk about these areas, for any of the groups that did look at that first page around the yellow level, so that was Roman numeral 2. Would anyone be able to share any noticings or takeaways from that particular level or page? This would be pre-K to early kindergarten. Is there anything that you're noticing, wondering, expecting of that level? Something that surprised you or didn't surprise you? All right, so this particular level is really an on-ramp to reading. Not every student is going to need this part, even if it's a kindergarten student. But what we do find is that most students do start kindergarten at these initial levels where they are picture reading and they do need some type of predictable text so that if I'm repeating sentence frames with you, I'm not actually reading the words, but I am able to repeat these sentence frames, and then I can use the picture to determine what do I think that changing word in the pattern is. So a yellow text will always have a repeated pattern, like I see the dog, I see the cat, and there will always be a changing word in the same spot on the pattern, and the picture will always show what that word is. So the only students that may struggle with that piece could be ELL students or students that just don't have that range of vocabulary, but we're not trying to trick students. So if you know that a student might not have all of that vocabulary, you can do a picture walk first with the student and just look at the pictures, because you're trying to see that they can do these strategies. So we're going to talk a little bit about the yellow level. This is not going to apply to everybody in the room, unless you were to get a student who is very new to the English language. But even then, they wouldn't use this level for very long because it is an on-ramp. I'm going to just show you, I'm going to show you a video of a student and just talk a little bit about it. So this image shows squiggly lines because that's what it looks like to the students. They're not able to read these words, but they can point to the words, and they should know that if I say, here is a puppy, that there should be that many spaces, there should be that many jumbles of letters. So I'm starting to understand the concept of a word and that words make different sounds. So if I said, here is a little puppy, there's not enough room for that. So I'm starting to understand that spacing. When we think about kindergarten and centers, we're thinking about even pattern blocks. We're thinking about counting. All of that is relative to this level. I have to understand that concept of a word. And picture cues, which are really important for students, because yes, we want them reading the words, but if I'm not using the whole text, why would we teach text features even through 5th grade if the pictures aren't important? And if I am a student learning another language, and I know that's not a big percentage or any percentage here, but then I do need to continue to build that vocabulary, and the pictures might be all I have. And in kindergarten, pictures are really where you're starting, but now you're also helping them, and they feel like readers much faster because they are feeling that sense of reading and learning how to go from left to right and all of those pieces. What happens is in pre-K, students have 2,000 hours of reading experiences. So if you have students coming into kindergarten that are past this on-ramp, they probably had parents reading to them all of the time. they probably have books at home. But for the students that don't, those students are probably gonna need this on-ramp first. How it works, this will guide you, this will be directions. So if you are a K1 teacher, you might wanna just put a Post-it here because this will walk you through this piece. This will be for any student that isn't ready to start the second half of kindergarten. Because the second half of kindergarten moves into the green levels. So if they're not ready for that and they need this on-ramp, which I shouldn't say the second half, it's really the first few months of kindergarten, lives in these yellow levels to get students ready, and it quickly moves out into the green levels. So it's gonna walk you through that in order to level a student in the yellow level, you're going to first read the patterns to the students, no matter where they are in this level. I could be a 1 yellow student, a 2 yellow student, I shouldn't say student, a student reading at 1 yellow, a student reading at 2 yellow, a student reading at 3 yellow. It's still the same yellow book. It's just what can I do with the text? But no matter where I am, I can't read the words. So you'll always need to read the first few sentence frames to me and then let me read the rest of the book. And kids get really shocked. You're like, I'm gonna read the first few pages and you're gonna read the rest. And they're like, I don't think this lady knows what she's talking about. So I might say, I see the dog. I see the frog. And then the student will continue. And if they can repeat the pattern with something that makes sense from the picture, they can be deemed 1 yellow. I could say, I see the house, and even though it was dog, there is a house in the background, then it's correct. So it has to make sense, it has to be in the picture. I might say, I see the rat instead of I see the mouse. That would be acceptable. That would be 1 yellow. So how do you know they're 2 yellow? If you say, you're doing a great job, now can you put your finger under each word as you read it? So if they can say, I see the dog, and they can continue that, for the most part, they're not swiping, they're understanding that concept of the word, then they're a 2 yellow. And you might only get that knowledge in this one sitting and say, okay, they can do that, they're 2 yellow. In order to be 3 yellow, they have to start using that first letter of the changing word. So I, as a 3 yellow reader, would be able to say, I see the, that's an M, mouse. It's not rat, it's mouse because it started with an M. They're not reading the whole word, but they can recognize that initial letter. You might not get that in your first time with them, but you can at least as a kindergarten teacher figure out who's 1 yellow, who's 2 yellow. If you're not 1 yellow, then you're pre-K. Then I'm gonna put you at read to me because you're not repeating patterns yet. So we're gonna put you at the level right before this. And then as a kindergarten teacher or first grade, you can dig a little deeper as the weeks go on to say, I'm gonna start investigating if any of my students that are here can use their letter. I might need to coach them how to do it first and see what letter sounds they already know. And then I can actually see if they're here. And then I can leave here once I know most of my letter sounds. Because I don't need to stay in this pattern world forever. I need to know most of my letter sounds and I need to know some high frequency words, and then I can actually start reading at the next level. And the URLA is gonna guide you through all of that. So this is not me saying it and you're gonna memorize it, but this is what the yellow level is all about. And this again will not be a majority of the students, but it will be a majority of kindergarten. So this kind of talks about, use the sentence from the first page to read the rest of the book. Touch each word as you read it. Is 2 yellow, and 3 yellow, say a word that matches the first sound of the new word on each page. So let's take a look at a student working at this level.
I'm 5.
You're 5? Are you in kindergarten or going to kindergarten?
I'm going to kindergarten this year.
Thank you so much for reading with us today.
You're welcome.
It's called Who Lives Here?
Who lives here?
Would you like help with the first page? Have you seen this animal before?
Snake.
It looks like one. It's called a salamander. Salamanders live here.
Deers live here. Geese live here. Bunnies, rabbits live here. Fish live here. Turtles live here. Whales live here. Jellyfish live here.
Did not want to stop for me. Okay, where do we think she is? 1, 2, or 3? All right, get some 2s and 3s, and no one's wrong. This is what the leveling's all about, and that's why we need more we need more brains together, because we're not necessarily wrong in either realm. But what would be, for those of you that think 3, why do you think 3? She's good. She's using her letter sounds. She got most of them.
And the pictures.
There was okay. Well, why would we think maybe 2? She said geese instead of ducks. Okay, so this is a great space to be, because we're really close to where Madison needs to be. So whether we did 2 yellow or 3 yellow, we're not sending Madison to the hospital. We're really close to where she needs to be. Now, what we would do then is we would actually go to the ERLA, and when we go to the 2 yellow and 3 yellow section, we can investigate, well, what do you need? What do you actually need to be at these levels? And so what you will find is that in order to be at a 3 yellow, you don't have to know all your letter sounds. So she could technically go into 3 yellow, or you might decide, I'm gonna put her at 2 yellow right now, and I wanna investigate further. So again, either way, we know that we're meeting with Madigan on a regular basis, and we can figure that out. But we do want to there is going to be a letter names and sounds assessment, so we'll figure out that piece. And the ERLA is actually going to tell you, if they know about 14 consonants, they're going to be good for 3 yellow. But then to move out of that level, you still don't have to know all of your letters. You might not know the X's, and you might have certain letters you don't know yet that you're still working on. But that doesn't mean you have to stay with the pattern books. So this is what you will see with students. Notice that the pattern book, notice she was using the book. So every level in here except yellow, we would recommend you use the readings right from the ERLA. But in yellow, to see how important it was to see how she used the book and turned the pages at that age, if we were to have her do a reading in here, it's so small for a K1 student. So that's why we use a book. So that means that you're choosing one of your yellow books. And just one little caveat to that, just make sure that you choose something that's fair. That book was fair. You might have in the zoo, there are many blank. So some sentence frames might have 8 words, some might have 5. The word might change right in the middle. The word changes in the beginning, and some at the end. So I would recommend beginning or end when you're trying to assess a student, and not have a really long, because we're not trying to trick them. All we want to know is, can you repeat a sentence frame? Can you determine something from the picture that makes sense? And are you using your letter knowledge to make better guesses about what that word is? Then I will know which one you're at with these levels. Now, if Madigan started reading the words off the page from the sentence frames, okay, maybe yellow is not where you should be. Maybe we need to try the next level. So Know if the student is reading the words off of the sentence frames, or that's a good indicator that you might want to go up. But I wouldn't start here with anyone unless they're in kindergarten. Always assume that they might be higher than that if they're older than kindergarten, because you can always come to the yellow books if you need to. All right, so we're gonna move on because Madigan's back, and then we're gonna look at not this page, but the page before it that you read, which was, I think, Roman numeral 3. That was going to be that talked about your K2 levels, but now it's really thinking about, let's talk about green, blue, red. Those are our phonics levels. So I apologize, it's not the page that's showing here, which is really confusing. It's the page right before it that has like day, D, and then day in the bottom right-hand corner. Maybe I said 2. I was wrong on the Roman numeral. Roman numeral 6, I was way off. So this'll, yeah, you guys can just keep it open and you'll see both pages there. So in these areas, students really do focus on, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner how they're gonna grow in their K2 levels. So starting with letter sounds, moving into high frequency words, but they're still gonna use their letter sound knowledge because some high frequency words are decodable. So students can start decoding at these green levels and using them, but some of these high frequency words don't have much meaning to them. You know, how do you find the word or the? You don't, you just need to know how to read them so that they're not holding you up when you're trying to make meaning of the text. So, but then we will have words like said, and I can use my knowledge of S and D to possibly to read that word. So the green levels will be about high frequency words, and then when they move into blue, that's where students, that's first grade. That's where students are fully moving into that. It's not to say that they just start decoding here, but this is where students are full on into one syllable words. They know their letter sounds, their letter names and sounds, and they have about 100 to 120 high frequency words. Now, this will all be in there for you to reference, and we'll talk about how this is organized. But I'm going to be able to, as a blue reader in first grade, read so many more words and word families because I know my letter sounds and I know my high frequency words. So for example, if I know the word am as a high frequency word, then I can read words like ham and ram and Pam because I know my letter sounds as well. So that's where they're gonna move into the blue levels. And we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more. But we're gonna take a look at students being leveled here. So I'm showing you the video before we actually talk about the leveling process so that you can see it first, and we can always come back to the video if need be. So I'm gonna show you 2 different students being leveled within the K2 levels. So you can see how that's different.
Telling me, what do you like to read? If you telling me,
There we go. Sorry about that.
what do you like to read? If you could read anything, or you had anybody read to you,
Connected to the internet,
what
so
do
this
you
might stop.
love to pick out?
The bird nest.
It's called The Bird's Nest?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? I've never read that book. What's it about?
It's about like a bird and a bear. The bear wanted to get in his nest, and then he said, I wanted to live there, but then he said no because he is too big. But then the branch broke and his nest fell down.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
that's so funny. Is that on our bookshelf? I think it might be.
Yes.
Yeah, that.
You know what, I think this is gonna give me an issue. I don't know why it's asking me, is there a way that I could connect to the internet here?
I don't think it does outside computers.
It doesn't? Okay. I think
Do you know how to get to that without it being on your computer?
That's what I'm trying to think. I'm pretty sure I can, yeah. So if I went on this one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're going to take a few minutes and I'm going to readjust.
I'm gonna go
Okay, yes. Oh, without
Exactly.
You know what? I might be able to actually. I just remembered I have a hotspot. I might be able to use my own hotspot here. I don't know why I didn't do that. I think I might be okay. As long as I get through. All right. I think I'm good. Woo.
And then if they're not
It's nest, but then the back.
Okay, so we're gonna do a little,
All right. All right, I probably should wait because I just dismissed I just dismissed us, but I forgot that I purposely pay for a hotspot because I usually do not get into most to most computers. So thank you for helping me there, just in case I need a back check there. Okay, so one thing I do want to make note of is we do start at this point to ask students about what they like to read, just get like but you might do this as a classroom teacher within your first 2 weeks. So if you've already have that relationship with students, we don't want to jump in like, we're gonna test you now. We try to not even use the word test, like we're going to figure out what your best fit reading level is, or which baskets of books are your best fit, or what types of books are your best fit, so that when you're practicing your reading goals. So kind of letting the student know what this is about and trying to stay away from the word test, because it is more of an assessment, and we don't want to bog down the negativity of it or make them feel nervous about it. So just, she asked her what she liked to read. The girl was really excited about that. Sometimes they'll say, I don't read, but you can kind of go from there, depending on the student.
reading. And the trick here is, I'm trying to see everything you can do on your own. All right, so I'm gonna share my screen with you and you're gonna see a big list of words, okay, sweetie? You see there's a long list of words?
Yeah.
We're not gonna look at all of them, okay? I'm
Okay.
actually gonna start right here. Do you see this little, kind of this hand that then turns into a little line? You see that? And sometimes it's my cursor. You see that?
Yeah.
I made it big, okay. So can you read that first word for me?
Am.
Am. Can you read that one?
Ham.
Okay. Can you do this one?
And.
Can you do that one? No big deal. What about this one?
And.
Okay, I'm gonna go down, okay, sweetie?
Okay. At. Down.
This is Roman numeral 20 if you wanted to look at
Get. In. It. Up.
It's okay, we're gonna skip it.
On.
Don't you worry, we're gonna skip it, okay?
See. Will.
Yeah, that's the one you saw today in our book, right?
Big. Come. Down. Man. Two.
Fantastic job. That's exactly what I needed you to do for us to go pick a book to read together, okay? We have this as your first choice.
Okay, so what she's doing here, and we'll talk through the process, I'm doing it in a way where like show first, talk later, like a little flipped action here. Is this too dark right now for you guys? Okay, thank you, so I was like, oh, there's like one spot, it's like super dark over here. So, the list is on Roman numeral 20, you'll definitely wanna flag this page or make a copy of it and put it in a page protector. Because you're never gonna keep track of what they could read and didn't read. The only purpose of this page is so that you know which level to start the reading at. And if a student can't decode a word, they probably don't know what it means. Or if they can't read a word, they probably don't recognize it. This is going to be your quick assessment. So as you can see, that only took a minute or so. If you had a student reading at the second grade level, if you look at the top, that one red, two red, those are your second grade levels. They might have been able to decode more, so we'll talk about how you do that. But never is a student reading every word on this page. You're either going across, and then you're going down the column that you think is the highest that they can read. Go ahead, please, questions.
Third grade, you start at across, like green, the blue, the red, and then we're white, and then go down white.
Yeah, so what you're gonna do is the page that goes to white is totally different. They're not going to be reading down any columns. White will be different because it's more about defining words. So we'll talk about that one next. But every student will get the page that we're on right now. Even if you're a 5th or 6th grader, it's just you might not spend a lot of time there. So, and it's, hey, they start with something easy, great. It's not gonna hurt them. They're gonna read across the rows. You might only have them read 3 rows. If they're a 5th grader who's a fluent reader, read across the 3 rows, and then just read down that last column, just for insurance. And then say, okay, you're a master decoder, let's move on, you know, and then they're kind of feeling proud. But if it's a student that's not there, you read across the rows, which column do they start to struggle with? We're not looking for 100% when we go down a column. The directions are in the top right corner of that page. We're looking for 70 to 80%. So I think when I actually did the math, which I'm definitely a literacy person, but, so I'm just gonna throw that out there, but I think it was around 14, you know, I think it was around like missing 5 or 6 words. So, that's really what you're looking for, and you're always using your best judgment as the educator. So, you know, I'm gonna say, oh, they missed 7. You know, whenever you're at that realm, you're gonna make the best decision for that student. And again, this is just to see what is the reading that I should go to. Because if we didn't have this page, we would start a 3rd grader at 3rd grade. Or we might start them with an assessment that we've used before, but some of the assessments that we've used before are instructional level. So it's what can students do with guided support. We're trying to find what is the level they can read independently, that they might have some struggles, some challenges, but they can make meaning of the text and they could productively struggle and grow in this level. So this will be their independent level. Again, this is your screener. It's called the phonics infrastructure, which I think is too fancy. I just call it the screener. This is the phonics screener. And if you just open up this page or just make a copy of it, I put this and the next one that we're gonna talk about on double-sided in a page protector, and I only use it if I don't have an ERLA level for a student. So next year, you don't have to do a screener with all of your kids. School Pace is gonna tell you what all of your students ended last year with, and you can check that level. Or if you want more information, you can do the screener again. But it's only intended because they don't have an ERLA level yet. That's why we're starting here. Did you have a question?
So like she had gone across to the 1B, but when she made a mistake, she didn't go back to that one? Is that, so like if they make a mistake in that column, then you're done with that column?
Yeah, you can, and that's a great question. You can decide to, I always say, like, don't worry about rushing through that particular page. Because if she wanted to go down the 1 blue column just to see, but if you see a student is struggling, you don't have to make them struggle through the rest of it. You could just politely say, okay, let's try this one now. So if she's been using it for a long time and she already knew that student, but you might say, okay, I can't really tell But I know it's not the 2B column. Let me have you read the one blue and then you start to hear like, okay, yeah, she's missing a lot of these. Let's try this column. So just spend as much time as you need on this page because it's gonna give you your best guess for the reading. And then let's say you make a mistake here. Well, when you get to the reading and the student isn't comprehending, you're gonna go down a reading anyway. So either way, you're gonna figure it out. We also have students that are master decoders, but their comprehension isn't there. So although this works 98% of the time, you might get a student who can do this, and then when you go to the reading, they're not understanding those, because there's gonna be some basic comprehension questions around that. And they will be standards aligned, which, side note, you will be getting a crosswalk with the Missouri standards. So don't worry, you will be supported in how does this work with all of the materials so that you have that crosswalk for those standards. And I forgot to mention that earlier. Okay, so she figured out what she thinks is the best space for Olivia to start reading. I do want to point out that the very first column, 1 green and 2 green, just to make it more confusing, it says 1 green and 2 green. So you might say, okay, they can read this column. Do I go to 1 green or do I go to 2 green? And 1 green is the first 60 high frequency words. 2 green is the next 60 high frequency words. So if they can read the whole column or almost the whole column, try 2 green. If you're noticing that they can read some of them, especially those first half, try 1 green. If they can barely read any of them, go to those yellow books that we talked about and see what they can do with those patterns, because they're not here yet, if that makes sense. Okay, now she went to the reading, so let's see how Olivia does. She went to 1 green. So she noticed that Olivia knew, she knew maybe about half, a little bit more than half of those words.
Take a look at that.
I like it.
You like that one? All right, this is the next one.
Oh, I apologize. So if you flip through your text, through your ERLA, through your text, you're gonna see all the colors. So you could easily find 1 green, and then you'll be able to see where the readings are. So every color level, which we're gonna talk about soon, will give you an overview of the color level, and then you'll quickly find the readings. And all she did is flip to the color level that she felt she should be continuing with Olivia. And now she's giving Olivia a choice, because there are 4 readings. And these go in order of grade level, so you're gonna see this towards the beginning of the ERLA. It's the yellow levels, then the green levels, and we're looking at 1 green. You might be asking, why is it 1 green and 2 green? Why don't you just pick a different color? And the reason is the colors have the same type of learning. So green is all about high frequency words, knowing high frequency words. Blue is all around, the initial decoding, 1 and 2 syllables. And then red is all about multisyllabic and then getting to decode all words. So there isn't a major shift. Now in the 1 green, she's giving her an option of 4. You can decide to you're gonna read this one because I said so, or you can decide you're gonna pick. Either way, that's fine. At older grade levels, I usually am not as nice. I usually pick for them, because at the older levels, 3rd grade and above, another part of leveling them is seeing what they can do with informational text because of the academic vocabulary. So since there's always 2 fiction and 2 nonfiction, I always go to that informational piece when I'm leveling students so that I can check 2 boxes. Yes, you were able to comprehend. Yes, you understand, you were able to handle informational text. So we'll take a look at that. But at these K2 levels, if you just want them to find a text that they are interested in, you can do that. And that's what she's doing right now with Olivia.
Then we have this one.
I read that one.
You've read that one? Okay, so that's not a choice today. And then there's this one.
I read that one too.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm glad you like your 3 choices. All right. Let's see. Which one? Do you want to read this one? This one? That one?
Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna go, it's like a comic, so you're gonna go this way, and then come down here and go this way, okay?
Okay.
And I
Okay.
just want you to do your very best reading. All right, you can start.
This is my baby. This is my little baby. I love you. I love you, little baby. Go to ha.
Sleep, keep going.
Go to
Sleep.
sleep. Little baby, do you want to be my baby? You can be my baby. This is my baby. This is my little baby.
Your brain, that was awesome. You read one of my favorites. I love that one. All right, so now,
It's funny.
it's funny? Okay, good, let's talk about what makes it funny, okay, Olivia? So, first, just tell me what happened in this story.
Well, the little guy got the kit and the cat, and she wrapped it up in clothes as a baby clothes, and then she pretended like it was her baby.
Yes, sure did. Okay, now, you said it was funny. So, let's see, how did the dog and cat feel about being the girl's baby? What makes you think that? So first,
Mad,
you think they felt mad? Okay, what makes you think they felt mad?
because they don't look happy.
Oh, they don't look happy?
And the cat, when the little girl was feeding at the bottom, she was like,
I want you to say to yourself, I'm such a good reader.
I don't know if that flipped there. Okay, what do we think? Do we think this is a thumbs up? It's a good level for her. Thumbs down. We need to go down a level.
It's a good level.
That's a good level. So she struggled with sleep, but that might be in a word she didn't recognize yet. And you know, there are some notes at the bottom of this page, like baby is not one of the power words. Power word we use for high frequency words. And also it lists what those power words are that are in this particular reading. And students are gonna come into this level knowing some power words and not necessarily knowing all of them. So it could be bad luck of the draw, right? If she struggled with this one, you could always try another one. We would have to think, especially at this one green level, would the students you're leveling here, do they have enough here, or should they go back to pattern books? Will pattern books suit that particular student? In this case, no. She's definitely in a space where she can continue to grow here, and she is comfortable. So that would be, part one of leveling is done, screening them. Part two of leveling is done, reading comprehension. Part three is going to be confirming her level. So we would just want to go to the, if you flip back after the readings, you're going to see a list of all the power words. We could do it right now with Olivia, or we could do it the next time we meet with Olivia. We want to see that she can read these power words. And it should be after the readings. I don't know what page exactly, but 34, thank you. Now they're numbered, thank goodness, because I don't think I can go past 20 in Roman numerals. So thankful for that. So if they're really young, you know, this is like a kindergarten student, you could use flashcards. They don't have to read off of here. This is again for you. This is also gonna be online on School Pace. So what you're gonna be able to do when you level students is they're gonna look at this. You're going to have the reading in front of you, and you can click any words that they weren't able to read, and it will save it. Also, you'll have this list on School Pace. So you'll click any words they can read and you'll be able to say, it'll count them for you, and you'll be able to always go back and add more. So that you can say, Olivia can read 40 out of 60 of her power words. She's pretty much almost done with this level. At the way top, it says, to begin one green, know 25 of these at flash speed. Don't let the flash speed scare you. We just don't want her to be like, at. You know, she might do that with some, but she should have some of these at flash speed, because all the books she reads at this level are gonna be filled with these words. So how is she gonna read them independently if she's struggling over all of them? So, again, this is that in-between level, 3 yellow to 1 green. So always be strict about pushing the kid down to 3 yellow. If you think they have enough at 1 green, keep them there. Because the pattern books, you can't read on your own. You always need somebody to read those pattern books with you. So when are they ready to start reading some words and pictures on their own? The power goal at this level is going to be to get to know these words and read these words. So there's going to be activities, there's going to be activities and ideas for how do you get kids invested in learning and practicing their power words and recognizing them and seeing them in their books. So that the part 3 to assessing them would be, see how many she knows. Does she know at least 25? And if she knows 24, you're gonna make your best decision there on what you need to do with Olivia. But of course, one thing that you'll notice, if you flip back to the beginning of this level, so if you go to the beginning of 1 green, it's going to tell you in the box that says learning focus, what the student needs to know at that level. So I'm going to give you a quick sneak peek. Of course, I'm gonna be going in here soon anyway, but you're going to be going into School Pace in a little bit. And don't let it scare you. It will be easy to use in no time. And all you'll really need to know is how to use your classroom. And you'll be able to have all of your students with their levels. This doesn't have any levels right now. But I'm just going to use this to go into the URLA so that you can see it from here. So when I look at the beginning of 1 green, I see that what is the focus for 1 green? The power words. So readers at the 1 green level will know and use 25 to 85 very high frequency sight words, many of which do not follow typical English letter sound relationships. So in other words, we have to know these, but they're not necessarily decoding lessons because of the nature of the types of words that they are. So, and then as you read through, these power words provide islands of certainty from which emergent readers can navigate the unknown. Although there are other skills involved with success at 1 green, the acquisition of a bank of sight words is fundamental. The combined sight words in 1 green and 2 green make up 50% of all adult and student writing. So students will use these words as a foundation for learning the basic vowel patterns when they get to the blue levels in 1st grade. So this page will give you the overview, and right from here, you can already pull and understand and determine what should be this student's power goal, okay? The other thing that I wanna show you on here is, and I'm gonna give you a sandbox, if you will, to kind of play around in here. But if I were to work on this, I'm gonna go to a classroom that actually has levels. This is a demo page, so I never know what I'm hopping into. I see some growth here, so I'm gonna hope that this one has stuff. All right, I'm gonna go to the 2nd grade one. All right, this would be an example of what you would see in your classroom. Hopefully your students aren't name numbered, but they would have their names here, and then what level they are here, because you would have put their level in the first 5-ish weeks of school. And then when you're working with a student, you're gonna be able to open up their URLA. So they're gonna have their own URLA that follows them for as long as they're in this district. And it will show their growth over time, over years. You'll be able to see just in this year how much growth that they've had. because every time they move a level, it accrues the points, the growth points of that level. But you can also, for students that are staying in a level, you could give them points for, growth points for what they're working on. And I wouldn't worry about any of that in the beginning, I just wanted you to know that that's part of it. For now, it's just getting them leveled and figuring out the right goals and how to share that goal with the students and help them learn how to practice it. We're eventually going to learn how to use the toolkits, which are the lessons that help with their goals, but that will be in a later professional development. What's most important now is that if a student knows that they're working on, for example, at the 3rd grade level, the number one goal a student can have is having a chapter book habit. So we could say, what's the main idea, what are the main characters, but if the student's never actually finished a chapter book and doesn't finish chapter books regularly, they're not gonna grow at the 3rd grade level. So having a chapter book habit and setting up a system for how the student finishes their chapter books and how they can show you they understand it and how they can talk about it will be the first thing that you do with those students. So if I open up this ERLA, notice that it automatically opens to the level of that student. So I can see right here, this is the focus for that level. And when I go into the entry requirements, that's where I go to level my student. So I'm gonna actually go to 1 green, because you just saw Olivia being leveled there. When this teacher was leveling Olivia would have the reading in front of her. I, as the teacher, would have this up. I wouldn't know to go here yet, I would have just been in Olivia's name. And if she doesn't have a level yet, it's just gonna default to the pre-K level right here. And as soon as I do that screener and I figure out what reading am I gonna do, then I just click on the tab of that reading. So she determined that she wanted to try 1 green, so she would have clicked 1 green. And then I'm gonna go down to the entry requirements, because the overview is just this page. She's gonna show me that first page, just like it does in the paper copy. So I'm gonna go to the entry requirements, which is the 2nd page in 2 green and 1 green. So you'll see that it's in the ERLA. It's just an electronic version, which you can do a lot more with. So I see that the very first thing that she needs to do is show me that she can read and comprehend an unfamiliar text at this level. You don't have to remember everything I'm showing you today. That's why I'm coming back. I'm gonna be coming back in the 1st or 2nd week of September. So I'm gonna click on the cold reads, and these are all the cold reads that you should see in your paper copy. She chose my babies, so I would have clicked my babies. The PDF is here, so for those of you who don't have your own ERLA, you can just download the PDF right here and print it, or show it on an iPad for students, so you don't, it's another way if you don't have your own ERLA. But what I would do is I would click start the cold read. It's not timed, and it doesn't have pictures, so I don't want the student reading this page. They do need the pictures. But then I can click any words that they might not have been able to read, which for her was just sleep. Something that you want to consider is if a student keeps missing the same word over and over again, it's not necessary you click it every time, because I don't want to see that you have 50% accuracy because of 1 word. But again, you can use it with a grain of salt. It's gonna say they should have 99% accuracy. I have moved students through that had 80% accuracy, because when I asked them the questions, when they were reading, it didn't sound interrupted or struggling, and they answered the questions well. But sometimes I might click the same word more than once, or I might click a word that's just unfamiliar to them. So you're gonna do some negotiating to try to find the right move for the student. So then I'm gonna click save, leave, and then it's going to save anything that I had here. Now when I scroll down to the bottom, it's just gonna ask, how did the student do in this area, yes or no? Notice that it dated it and it put who assessed the student. So if you ever have any questions, like, because we might all be helping to assess, that you could say, how did they do on this, or what did you notice? But at least we can see that she was able to show at this date that she can do this. And now here are the questions right from the reading. So this is again on the cold read that that Olivia was reading, but it's also right here on the computer for the teacher. So what happened in this story? I can now rate Olivia's response. I would have given her a 4. No response is a 0. Weak, you know, I know rubrics can be a certain way, but if it was okay, you know, then we're gonna do fair. So this is where we'll calibrate a little bit more. I think 0 is gonna be the easiest one. Weak might be she was like, there's a cat, you know. Fair might be she has babies. You know, again, this is something that you might give her a 3 and I might give her a 4, and that's okay. The question is, if I give her a 4 and you give her a 1, now we need to talk about it. But it's okay if we're 1 off. What you really want to know is that a 2 is what's needed to be at this level. So was Olivia a 2 or higher? I think we can all agree yes. And that's the important part. So we don't have to get caught up in the, is it a 3, is it a 4? We have to know, is she ready for this level? And then there was an inferencing question, but at this particular level, it's not counting that in her score. You will see that in later levels that you need to have a 6, or at 3rd grade and above, you need to have a 9 out of 12. Because you have a comprehension question, you have an inference question, and you have a context clues vocabulary question. Like what does this word mean based on the text? So that's gonna start to go up, but this will save. And then I could put any observations I noticed here, like missed sleep, you know, that is appropriate. They don't learn the 2-letter blends, SL, until 2 grade. So I would expect that might be a hard one for her. She could have maybe used the clues in the picture to figure it out, but it just wasn't, she wasn't processing that one. So I can put anything I want to here, and then I click save. And then I'm going to go back to the entry requirements. So I just want to show you what that looks like. So now, when I click here, it shows that she took this assessment on this day. She got a 93% accuracy. I did not click the 4 like I meant to, so it says she got a 0 out of 4, but I would have actually clicked on the number, and that will stay there. She doesn't need to ever do this again unless you want to check in with her. But right now the goal is for her to read books at this level, learn the rest of her power words, and then we try her out for 2 grade, and then we start the process all over again in 2 grade. So this was really to get her in because it's in entry requirements. And now I see that these are the 2 possible goals that I should work on at this level. I shouldn't be working on, she can inference, she can have comprehension questions, but those shouldn't be her power goal that she's working on. When I work with her one-on-one or in small group, it should be around one of these 2 pieces. Either it's her power words or it's her letter sounds. And in order to give her a level, this is the extra credit. In order to give her a goal, you just click the star and it'll show up. You'll be able to show all your students and what their current goal is in reading. And then when you want to change the goal, you just move it to a different star. If there are more than one teacher working with a student, I do recommend that you determine who changes the power goals, because you know, you don't want to be working on something and go in and be like, when did your power goal change? So come to a consensus when students should move levels and move power goals, because you're both working off of the same piece. This EIRLA follows Olivia, follows the student. So if I have a class with her in it and you have a school-paced classroom with her in it, we're going to be able to see each other's notes because it follows the student. Another thing to note here is, as I said, those power words. Let's say I wanted to make power words her goal. That list, if I click this checklist here, is right here. So I'm able to click all of the words that she gets correct, and then it will keep track of them over here for me. And then next time I go in, I could always go in and add more that she's able to read. You don't need to have her read the same list over and over again. You can just start adding the new ones that she's acquired, so that when she knows all or most of these words, you move her over to, you try her out for 2 grade and see if she can comprehend at that level. Another thing that you can do is type evidence. Whenever you wanna write notes, it will put the date there. And again, it's also helpful because other people can see it too. It's not something that you need to write a dissertation about. It's really only helpful if you write what you observed and what the student needs to do next. Because there will be a space that you can see your whole classroom and what was the last thing you wrote about that student, all in a one-pager. So it's almost like your Post-it note. So you might say, you know, Johnny's gonna finish this particular chapter book by such and such a date, and now it's always there for you to remember to, hey, how you doing? Where are you at in that book? So whatever you wrote last about the student will stay there, and those are things that we're gonna learn as we go, because you don't need to know all of that. I just want you to know what's gonna be available to you, and I'll show you where those are. Finally though, if I'm a K2, if I'm working with students at the K2 level, if I go into foundational skills, which is gonna be the bulk of what K2 students need, you're gonna be able to scroll through and look at possible power goals. And it will tell you if it's considered high leverage or not. So if your student is reading below grade level, this is where, when I told you when I first met you, that this helped me figure out how to move my students reading far below grade level. If I have a 3rd grader reading at this kindergarten level, if I only work on everything that says high leverage, once those are completed, that's my green light to try the reading at the next level and move the student. I don't need, so I need to work on these high frequency words. I don't need to work on fluency, comprehension, demonstrate adequate background knowledge. Those are important and they're gonna happen, but they're also gonna happen during grade level instruction. I need to make sure, once the student can read these words, they can actually read a more complex text at 2 grade. So that's what I'm gonna keep my blinders on and just focus on that, because that's the skill that's gonna get them to the next level. Doesn't mean these aren't important and they're not gonna happen. It just means that they're not gonna be power goals that student is reporting on, because it's not gonna speed up the process. Now, if the student's reading on grade level or above grade level, you have fair game to choose power goals for that student, and the student might even have some autonomy in where they would like to work on their reading, but we don't have time to waste for the students reading below grade level, so that's why we are keeping it targeted. Okay, that was a lot. I know that was a lot there. I wanted to, with the time that we have left, we want to do 2 things. I want to show you 3rd grade and above, because there's that 2nd page there. How does that look different on School Pace? And then I want to give you the demo site so that you can look around on School Pace and try that piece out. Then we're going to break for lunch. After lunch, any questions that we have around the ERLA or anything that we want to sort of close out so that you feel confident in using this piece, because it's a lot of information right now. So as you're kind of processing over lunch, we will talk through a little bit more about the ERLA, and then we will go into our unit lessons. The reason we start here is because your grade level instruction will be far more powerful when you know exactly where all of your students are, because it's going to be those implications for who is going to be able to do this lesson or be successful in this lesson, and who do I need to support. So that's why we kind of start with that differentiated piece first. And I'm going to show you our student. We'll just see. I think we have time for I think we have actually time for 2 quick videos. I'm just not going to show the whole thing. So I'm going to show you one more student at this foundational level, and then I'm going to show you a student at the higher level.
My name is Carlos, and I'm 1st grade, and I'm going to get in 2nd grade. A mother bird sit on her egg. The egg humped Oh, oh, said the mother bird, my baby will be here. He will want to eat. I must get something for my baby bird to eat. He said, I will be back. So away he went. Out came the baby bird.
Okay, so what is happening in this story so far?
This story, the mother of the bird, he was thinking that he needs something to eat. So he fly and go find some food. Then when he was flying, the bird came out.
Came out of the egg. How did the mother bird know that her egg was about to hatch? And what makes you think that?
Because the egg was moving and I was hot and hot.
Because the egg was moving?
Yeah.
And what part of the story or the images or the illustrations tells you that?
That
What part makes you think that the bird was about to come out of the egg?
so these three parts and this one. So when the egg was there, the egg was hot. Then moved. He was trying to get out of the egg. Then the egg stopped, and something was thinking. Then the mother go fly and see some food, and then the baby came out.
Came out.
Okay, so a couple things. Would we want to mark down? Would we say that when he said hump it instead of jump, that was phonics or language? Language. So one thing you're going to notice, there is a reading observation, and it's going to ask you, and again, I know you don't have a lot of ELL students, it's going to ask you to move them into categories if you know that, and we wouldn't hold him back for that. It's just, he doesn't know those, that's not part of his repertoire of language right now. So we would work on that. And something, he says he instead of she. That didn't change the meaning, that did not deter his comprehension at all. Something we could note and work on with him for sure. But we could say that he can make meaning and he could be successful at this level. So this would be a good level for that student. You didn't see the screener, but you would assume that they went across and went down one blue, and that was the column that she felt the most confident in starting him at. So that would be the kindergarten level. Okay, now we're gonna move to our older student. This is a 4th grade student.
Talk to me about what you are currently reading.
The Watsons Go to Birmingham.
Get out of here. I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm reading that and kind of reading.
Yeah. Do you like it? What do you like about it?
That the teenage boy Byron, he thinks he's all that and stuff. He not. And Mama almost killed him. That was funny.
Right? I want you to take a look at this list of words, and I want you to read across, and we're going to do probably 3 or 4 rows that way, okay? So you start here and just keep going.
Ham, hammer, hammering, Samuel, and man, candle, candlelight, piano, and Sandy, understand, handicapped, at bat, battle, scratchy, attention.
Perfect. I'm going to get you to read down this column for me.
Samuel, piano, handicapped, attention, touchdown, McGettin, skinnier, situation, Tupperware.
All right, so we're going to look at this page, and in this column, I want you to pick a couple of words that you can tell me a synonym for, or short definition. If you can choose any of these words here.
Okay. Brilliant. Brilliant means smart or clever, and capture means hold hostage. Disbelief means not believable or not real.
What about down here?
Scowl means to tell you about yourself. Or to tell you to correct you.
Okay, so there's some differences there. If you get to this page, which means they read across the rows in the phonics and they read down to red and they got 70 to 80%, then you would go to this phonics page. And you would start with the first column. I usually like to take a piece of paper to cover the rest of the words because it can be overwhelming and just look at that one column. But what you're trying to get, the outcome is that can they read, can they define or give a synonym for 5 or 6 words? So when it told me 5 or 6 as a teacher, I was like, 5 it is. So I wanted to hear 5. You can pick, they can pick, sometimes it's all you. I like to say if they're gonna pick 5 and run with it, fine. You know, I'm okay with that. And it's not about you trying to, ooh, I'm always picking the easy word, because we don't really know all the words they've been exposed to. So any words that you pick are fine. I have students that just stare at me, so I have to pick all of them. And then I have students that are really confident and they pick. And I let them know, you can pick any, because sometimes they think they have to go in order, or they think they need to start reading them because they just read the words on the previous page. So you can pick any. You might say, like, what does glimmer mean? You know, and now I'll sometimes say, what does glimmer mean? And people are like, you're not supposed to say the word, you're supposed to point to it. And yes and no. I agree, whichever stance you take on it, decoding shouldn't be a worry right now. It's, do you recognize the word and can you read it? One of the columns, I think it's purple, has the word chaos. And I had a student pronounce it chaos, but gave me the better definition than I could have given. I still gave it to him because he could read that word and he knew what it meant. So it was like one of my favorite sayings is like, don't judge me for pronouncing a word wrong, or you know, it means that I learned it while reading. You know, if you've never actually heard it out loud, but you understood it, you learned it while you were reading. So that's what we're looking for on this page. We've already established they can decode. That doesn't mean they can pronounce every word. They're gonna come across words in the English language that they can't read or that they've never seen before. Oh yes, I'm sorry.
So what happens if they pick 5 words and then, like she did with Scowl, doesn't know what Scowl, can she say, well, let me try another one?
Another one, thank you, absolutely. So I would say is there's 20 words there. We don't wanna exhaust the list, but let's say you got to 5 through 7 words, if that makes sense. You got 5 correct out of 7. You know, you might say, and I don't say, no, you got that wrong, or write any of this down, but I might say, okay, great. And then I might move on to the next one. So I used to say we're gonna read 5, and then I caught myself, because then I go to the 6th one, the student's like, but you said 5. So I said, we're gonna read some words, and then I figure it out, because I'm not gonna, okay, they didn't know that one that I picked, I'm gonna do a little bit more investigating. Then you go to the next column, and you keep going until it's taking too long, or the definitions or the synonyms are either inaccurate or they're not that strong. Then you're just gonna go back to the column that the last column they were successful. That's the page that you're gonna open. Because when we go back to those pages that you were skimming and scanning during our break, that next page was about what is the white through gold level, 3rd through 12th grade. And there's a lot to it, like background knowledge and vocabulary. But when we think about academic vocabulary, words that students do not use in their everyday language, the white level books will have 1 to 2 per page that a student has to grapple with. That's why that's the level that we start really teaching them how to use context clues. You could do that 1 to 2 words per page. But when you jump to 6th grade, and I think there's 14 to 16 words per page, it better be automatic by then, because you need to do this on a constant. And you need to be exposed to a lot of words, so hopefully you know most of them. So this little check is just trying to see, based on the level of words, can you handle this level of words, because they're gonna be coming at you more per page and at higher level words. I mean, for fun, I definitely quizzed myself on the gold level, and I had to look up a handful of those words. When I first used the Erlen, And then I made it a point, like, I've never actually leveled a kid, I've never actually been with a student at the gold level before, thank goodness. But, but, you know, it's something to consider.
So let's say you have a third grade student that you took them to the white, they got their 5, you move them up to the next one, they get their 5 there, and let's say they're in the purple level. Did I hear you say earlier that if a kid scored like in the 6th grade, we don't just put them there though, because, or did I understand
Wait,
you incorrectly?
If a student, what, in the 6th grade?
Well, like, if a third grade
Oh,
student
third, yeah.
is scoring in this purple, did I hear you say that they shouldn't be reading those books?
So it's good for you to notate that they have high vocabulary. What you might notice when you go to the reading is they might be reading at surface level. You know, like, I can comprehend this, great, but do I have all of the background knowledge? So we might want to come to a stance, like, as a school, to say if a student is reading above grade level, or at least we assess them there, what is our route to take? So if we might get some students that can define words up, like a 3rd grader up to 6th grade, you might decide, I want to see how they do on this cold read. But there are more steps than that in 3rd grade. So students are going to need to, once a student in 3rd grade and above has read this cold read accurately, you can mark them in school pace at that level, but you actually are gonna have them go and select a chapter book and talk to them about the time frame that they're gonna finish that chapter book, and set up some parameters for, you don't have to read it yourself, but what are the parameters that they can show you they understand it? And it could be as simple as you give them Post-it notes with a problem, setting, theme, and they need to mark them, just put the Post-it note there, and then we're gonna talk about it so they can show you in the book where that happened. Because boy, have I been fooled before. Kids are really good at making up their own stories. Or it sounds good to me, but I never read it, and then I realized, no, they didn't really understand that text. So we need to see that they can have a deep level of understanding. But I do agree that if it is a 3rd grade student, I don't, no matter how well they read, I don't think reading all 6th grade texts is their best option. So you could level them there if you think truly after you went through all the requirements that they were there. I wouldn't say you're at the 6th grade level and then demote them. You might say, wow, look at all the things you can already do at these levels. But what I have seen is, first of all, you're not gonna have those levels in your classroom. You will have one level above. So you might have them read between grade level and above grade level. Or if you are at 3rd grade, you can go to other classrooms and say, hey, could I borrow some orange, can I send my student in here to pick out an orange or purple text from you? Or you could use books from here, because there is gonna be a way on School Pace where you can look up certain titles and see what color level they are, if that's helpful to you. Or the librarian or media specialist can help you and say, I need something that's a 5th grade level text. But I would recommend for those students, they get to read a band of books, because we don't want them to miss out on the Charlotte's Webs and all of those great 3rd grade texts, but we don't want to hold them down either, so we might give them a variety of texts there, if that makes sense. But we will want to come to a stance on what do we do with those particular students that might be 1 grade level above is not as concerning. 2 or 3 is when we start to question, is this the right move for the student? With regards to the books that they're reading.
Yes. Okay, so this is more like an observation thing, because I was one of the teachers that went to Southern Boone where they are doing this currently.
Yes.
So in Southern Boone, when they had students in that particular situation, for ERLA purposes, what they did is students had like book boxes in their cubbies, and they had like 2 or 3 books going. So one of them, like if you do have a kid on 6th grade level, like maybe if you just want to check their reading skills, like their 3rd grade reading skills, you could do that. So give them tell them their 3rd grade level, but this isn't like AR where we're like killing kids in levels. So if they see a 6th grade book and they want to read a harder book, and obviously the library has access to anything, like we still allow them to pick out those books so they get to read whatever they are interested in whatever level. So you could check them on their 3rd grade skills on a 3rd grade text, and if they blow it out of the water, obviously it's your discretion. But that's what they did over in Southern Boone, was gave them multiple books and multiple options, and it wasn't like before. I think we're all just so like stuck in the mindset of this kid's reading level was from a 3.5 to a 4.5, and it's like, that's not it anymore. It's basically whatever they understand, whatever they want to do, as long as they're reading something.
Because they chose up to 4 books for their kids.
Yeah.
And one or two was just their choice to read outside of what we're doing in
Mhm.
class.
So like one was their take home. I don't think they allowed their kids to actually take home these books in Southern Boone. They were allowed to take home the book from the library, like from here that was in their level. And then, so that way they could keep their books because they were just nervous about losing them. So that's how they did it, was give them more freedom that way.
And the only reason I asked that is because I know last year I had some kids that were like a 3.5 to a 7.5.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you
And I-
can't just, they're gonna probably get bored with
Exactly, that's why you're not gonna
Yeah.
hold them.
books, and so that's.
You're not gonna
Where
hold them
come in or they're
on
just-
either realm, right? I'm not gonna keep you here all the time, cause you might get bored here, but I'm also not gonna keep you here. Well, one thing I'll hold them to is this. In 3rd grade, so in the kindergarten levels, we're all about like reading strategies, right? And learning how to read on ramp. And then in 1st and 2nd grade, it is about reading and comprehending, and we want to see them laughing at the funny parts and getting engaged in the books. Once you get to 3rd grade, the 2 most important things that 3rd grade level needs to do is notice and note academic vocabulary per page. If I don't know a word on a page, what are my strategies? Don't gloss over it. How do I acquire this vocabulary? And finish a chapter book a week. If I leveled at 6th grade, so 6th grade texts, we might say 2 weeks. But if I have this book 30 minutes a day in school and I'm supposed to read 30 minutes at home for homework, that's gonna be something that we're gonna try to get them towards. I should be finishing this book in 2 weeks. If I'm taking months to finish the 6th grade text, I can't handle it. So so you might start them at 3rd, and they're whipping through the books, then you might have them try the black level and then the orange, but if they can do it, then that's gonna be your sure tell sign is, are you actually independently finishing books and engaging in books at this level that you were leveled at? Then that's how we'll kind of hold the kids accountable, is what are they finishing? Then it might be too hard, or, too long, or whatever it might be, but it could also be like, I just started chapter books, I might have all of this knowledge, but I need to, just like when I tell students, like it's like lifting weights. You start with the 5 pound, and then you start to work your way up. You don't start with the 50 pound. So if this is my first time with chapter books, then I need to start here, and then I can work my way up. But you could still level them at 6th grade because that's for you, and then you can decide the pathway that the student's gonna take. But do they have a chapter book habit? They're gonna need that to be successful. And that's the white level. Now at the black level in 4th grade, I already have a chapter book habit. So now can I get a series habit? Have I gotten hooked on a series? Warrior Cats, I said Diary of a Wimpy Kid like 100 times. I don't know why I can't think of anything else, but there's tons here. Oh look, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, maybe that's why I say it. Goosebumps, whatever those are, I should know a series, because a series and knowing the predictability of a series is going to help me when I get into 5th grade and 6th grade, when I have to know the predictability of a genre. So then I move into 5th grade, and notice in 5th grade it says, readers at the orange level demonstrate proficiency in at least 5 very different kinds of texts. So that means if I'm an orange level reader, my goal for the year is to read in 5 different genres and be able to name what those genres are and what the predictability is. So if you're a 3rd grader, doesn't have a chapter book habit, does not know 5 genres, then we have to start there first, or they're not gonna be successful at the 6th grade level. And then in the 6th grade level, and that's where the ERLA will help you. It's like, okay, let me backwards map all the skills that you need to get there. When I go to the purple level, it's still genre, but it's going to now be more, right? So in the orange level, I might pick the genres I like. And then when I get to purple, I might pick some of those harder genres, which tend to be fantasy and, more of the science fiction, but for some, maybe not, because if you really love that, it's an easy one for you. And then when now I'm ready for middle school, because in middle school, I have to think about evaluating authors' choices and themes, and I have to have background knowledge and a lot of vocabulary. So if I read the same genre my whole my whole elementary career, I don't have a nice I don't have a nice variety of vocabulary. I don't know many genres. I haven't acquired a lot of background knowledge. And if I don't have a chapter book habit, there's no way I'm gonna be able to handle these texts, because I wasn't able to lift my weights to get up to that. So that's how it can help you make those decisions for students. And then also, not just for above grade level, but think about if your grade level is orange and you have a student at the white level, now you have a path for them. Get them hooked on these white level chapter books, get them a chapter book habit and context clues, then get them into a series and continue acquiring vocabulary. And now we're ready for orange, and you can handle some bigger chapter books with more academic vocabulary words per page. By the time they get to orange, we should be done with what strategy did you use to learn that word. They should be able to do that at orange, because they're learning that in the white and black levels. That makes sense in that kind of format. Okay, we're almost there. Question? Oh, maybe not question. Just like me. That's all right. I'm Italian, so my hands are all over the place. Okay, so, oh, see, I told you I was creeping on your website earlier. Okay, so what I'm going to do, now I know not everyone can get into the Padlet.
It's working. Actually, the Padlet is working.
Oh, it's working, okay. So I'm gonna just point that out and give you some time there. What I was not able to do is kind of just talk through the architecture of a color level. And all that means is, every time you look at a level in there and on SchoolPace, I just want you to know what's available there. But right now, I'm just gonna show you what's on the Padlet and give you some time to look into SchoolPace. Now, in order for you to get into SchoolPace, you don't use like a hub that has all of your links on it, do you? Like Clever or anything like that? You do use Clever? Okay, so students then would access, because I think we have the ebooks, the Arts Bookshelf. So students would access Clever, and they would be able to click, and they would actually be able to access some of these books online. But you might be going to Clever to get to SchoolPace. So I don't know if you go to Clever and if you see an icon for SchoolPace, but if not, I'm gonna give you another option.
Would we want our kids to be able to do that from the beginning, or?
No, so what your kids, so yours, SchoolPace might look like this. See this with the rainbow here? They might have that. Let me see, I'm actually gonna log out of this one. I'm gonna go into Morgan County. All right, so I'm in Morgan County right now.
We don't have it yet.
Okay, you don't have it yet. I'm gonna try something else. Okay, so I do see you in here. Okay, so it's not set up yet, which is okay. There will be a couple options. So what you can do is you can go to Clever, and there will be an icon, and that will be definitely like IET, tech person, to kind of make sure that jives. It will be then easier, because when you click, you'll automatically be logged in. There is another route though, because you can go to arcid.americanreading.com, but I'm going to put that, that's on the Padlet, so I'm going to actually show you how to get to this, because what I'm trying to get you to is this Shermerville School District, which is just a demo page, because you're going to be able to see a couple things here. One is you're going to be able to go into SchoolPace, and right now it's listing schools. So this would be like, this is the district, here's all the schools. And then when you actually want to click into a school, now I'm in a school, these are all the classrooms, so you kind of got to go down into it. I'm going to click into a classroom, and now I can actually see what would be available to me as a teacher. So if I want to look at the ERLA, I'm going to open that. What you're going to do is if you look on the Padlet, sorry for this, I don't know if it's spinning for you, it's really dizzying. This was, I'm gonna probably take that off, but when we go, actually, I didn't put it on here, my apologies. I made it easier and put it on here. Let me give you the username and password. I'm gonna put it right on here so that you can log in. Now I wish I would have just put it on the Padlet, which was my initial thought. There it is, okay. Okay, so to get into the demo, and this is another way that you'd be able to go in, which usually when it's your username and password, it would probably be your school email and your whatever password you use for school, but I'm gonna guess that it's gonna be Clever once it's set up. But for now, use this and instead use this as the username. CuteIguana93, I don't know why. This is the page that you'll be typing it in.
I think it's long, hang on. It's restricted, we can't get it.
Oh no! You got some great firewalls in here. Okay. I'm gonna work through it. That's okay. That's all right. So what is the process when something is locked? Is there a quick fix?
I think she's calling Ted.
I'm gonna, somebody is gonna call.
Tech is gonna hate me. What is this X-rated stuff she's bringing in here? Okay, so while we're waiting for that, I just wanted to give you a little preview though, because School Pace itself, like I said, it overwhelmed me when I was new to it, but I promise you again, like you're gonna be clicking around in there. The only thing that this ERLA has that your book does not have is it's going to help you navigate the color levels more and say what's high leverage and what's not high leverage. But remember we talked about the learning focus, which was that square in the front page of every level? What's high leverage should match what's in that paragraph. So you won't see anything high leverage that has a star with it, with a circle to say, make this their power goal, if it wasn't named in that learning focus on the front page of your ERLA. So you could essentially look at that learning focus and be able to pull out what should be the goals of students at that level. If they're reading below grade level, it should be absolutely that. If they're reading on or above grade level, it should start there, because that's the most high leverage, but then you can move on to other parts. Another thing I like to do as a teacher is when I think about all the students in my classroom, the students that were reading on or above grade level, I would have their power goal either be what was high leverage or what was the focus standards for that particular week or month. So if you're reading on or above grade level and we are analyzing a genre, then I want you to continue and go in more depth. Or maybe I want you during this reading time to read a different genre and use those same moves to figure out that genre. So you can align your on and above grade level students with what's going on in grade level instruction, because that is their reading level. Or you can make it two separate entities. We're learning about genre, but I would like you during your power goal time we're gonna focus on informational text and we're gonna work through those pieces. So you do have some wiggle room, whereas, as I mentioned before, any students reading below grade level, we really wanna stick to a plan that's gonna accelerate them the fastest. Yes?
Can you tell me the username and password again?
Yes.
That was prior to that.
Some of us were able to get in.
You were, okay.
Hey. Ms. Kaminsky, hit refresh and see if anything's happening.
NC.demo, and then all lowercase and cute
Sherman Bill, is that what it is?
Yeah, sorry, that's not big enough, is it?
Is it?
SHER, and then it should pop up.
I just had a Google.
Oh, you did?
And it's a dot, American Reading.
Yes.
Yeah, we're.
Oh, I put that, oh my gosh, look at me. Look at me with the wrong one. Sorry about that.
It's, well, mine's still registered, but it's the ARC
Oh, there's more.
There was more to it. That's what happens when, put that slide in very late last night, I apologize. I forgot when I landed in St. Louis that I had 2.5 hours to drive. It's like, whoops.
No, can't be reached. Still the same thing.
And no worries if you can't, like I said, this is just kind of like an extra dig into it. You're going to be, you're not really starting to level your students until the end of week 2, beginning of week 3 of school, as far as like the suggestive format, because you want to get to know your kids and set up those routines and procedures and get them reading during reading time, because then you're going to be pulling them to assess them. I did show you the 3 phases. So phase 1 is the screeners, phase 2 is the reading, and phase 3 is anything that you need to confirm. You could do it all in one, or you could break it up into phases. So if you have a not engaged classroom, you might decide, I'm gonna just do screeners with everybody this week. And then I'm gonna write down what reading I'm gonna do with that group. I'm just gonna do the screeners first. And then you pull students to do the readings. That might be your way. You might decide that works better for me, or you might say, no, I wanna sit down with one student and go through the level and then move on to the next student. Yeah. Oh, sorry, from the tech person. Now, I don't know, it might be, I guess to get into this, it'll be important, but it might be a moot point if they're gonna go through Clever to get to theirs. This was just a kids. Yes.
Sorry, I can't see way back there, even with these things on.
Yeah, so what will happen is that text is read by the teacher. So that'll be, and
I've got one.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that.
I've got just missing. Is Marla also sharing? Okay, that's showing you her partner.
But it wouldn't be something that you wouldn't want to say.
That's why. Well, okay. I mean, I don't know how you talk to him, but I looked at him, you can ask. I'm for sure I'm going to have Alzheimer's. It's bad. Quit listening.
I just heard it in a random.
So that can work.
Yeah, thank you.
Maddie
was there. I looked at him first. Away. Just up there, just got trying to be. Yeah, I mean, you got
It's not my thing, but I would try to right? And then I just right down they come out really
third grade. This is letting me
ideally, like that's they're reading one book and they're finishing it.
Thank you.
Other than that one will always stay in the classroom.
What was the numbers after? Yeah, but like the one that you were added into the
It's asking me. So just say, are there enough copies?
I do the short thingy, so says up there?
Once you start doing SHE.
And my turn.
Yeah, so we definitely like kind of analyze this particular students. We do have a regular the other thing, there will be certain students that I want to talk about just or it might be, you know, you're gonna need to go on to basically see more of what you analyze the writing, see how can we bring your skills in and support the students. And obviously, with the grade level, just knowing what you're doing, because you're gonna want to see those students, the outcome of every single day. So it wouldn't be so much both, but really, you know, when you can say these students, they really struggle with this, I'm gonna have to do this part of, you know, but what you're gonna see in the second is, somebody third grade reader, don't have that, you know, we're gonna do
I know, when I'm serious, she's Oh, does she have your Explorer? Is that what you did? You better tell her something.
Right, so it would be, I would think third grade, it's gonna be narrative, it's gonna be informational writing, it's gonna be a literary analysis and short story.
With like screen document essay.
So they're gonna cover the focus writing. Oh, it's across the year. But you would at least. Unit 1 is really gonna be, there's gonna be some lessons, this time the students pick writing bombs, more getting them up and going. It'll be very particular about what.
I know that you're gonna use that.
So that's what we did.
Actually, you got 2 minutes. But you grab that verbal, so you guys battery life. You guys have that.
Yeah, so that's where our, a lot, but our standard for the student work analysis, so analyzing student work for what needs but, and then teaching to the needs. So again, there might be some basic ones.
Yeah, Bear Cruz is calling my name. It's saying, Caitlin, chips and salsa. That's what it's saying.
More basic.
Just wanted to touch base with you.
Telling you.
To certain groups.
I'm leaving my stuff.
After a year of this, then you can really start to establish. You really want those first names. You really want to come up with a system so that we're not eating the same engines and capitalizing.
Yeah, I'm sorry to go. I'm gonna go to my room, I'll be right back. Okay, we won't leave the couch. Mine's ready. Is it all right then? Okay.
Okay. All right. I will see you after lunch at 12 o'clock.
She's already.
I think this is all he needs. You have a second hole, you went. What?
Oh, that's so nice of you. Thank you.
Whenever you're ready.
I love Mexican. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to do anything. I'm Mexican, I'm always successful.
Where are we going?
Yeah, I love that shirt. I don't hang out. I was like, I have to have it. That's all we are.
I got it. Okay. We'll just meet you there.
Okay, we will be there shortly.
Okay. Is everybody just doing their own thing?
Well, I was planning on.
Okay. I wanted to rip some
Yes.
off, but not myself.
They know go. Yeah, I transferred. Just all do our own thing.
Oh gosh, it was falling, and no one was there to catch me.
well, I went to the bathroom and then everybody left.